Hi, welcome once again to M5's English language learning program, Let's Speak English. I'm Gav Duncan and I'm here on your TV to help you learn English. Now, are you sitting comfortably? Yes? Good. And are you ready for today's lesson? Yes? Good. Okay. Well, let's learn English together. And welcome, people. Welcome to the studio once again. Yes, we're here once again. And yes, you're right. It's Wednesday, which, as we all know, means that we're halfway through the week, which is great because this automatically means that we're halfway away from the weekend. That special time at the end of the week when we relax and have fun and do whatever we want.
You all right, Vivian? Vivian?
Great! This is it! I've been waiting 2 hours for this! It's a revolution!
What do you mean, revolution?
Revolution! Blood runs, flags wave! Come on, everybody! Throw down your tools and throw up a barricade! Come on! Run into the Winter Palace! Run into the Winter Palace and stand on the tables, waving bits of paper at each other! Yes! Yes!
Yes!
Hello, are you the Tsar? Yes, I am, actually! Blam, blam! Ah, tough luck, fascist! That's what happens to people who aren't working class. Yes, Neil. Listen, I've got everything ready. Yeah. In 10 minutes' time, there's going to be a massive rock and roll benefit in the drawing room, right? And right at the climax, the oppressed working classes of this house, right, that's you, mainly, right, will rise up and seize control of the state. Huh? Brilliant! Revolution! Watch out, Norman Tenet! Come on!
Yeah, right on. But first, yes, you all know, we've got to get through the rest of the week, don't we? All right, now, we're getting so close to the last few folds of the mystery of the bench fields and the supermarket that we can almost taste it. But before we get stuck in to try and unfold the last few pieces of what the blinking flip was really happening in the supermarket, the still ongoing mystery of what was happening when Tim went off his onion and started dancing about like a possessed loony there in the tinned food aisle. There's some vocabulary we have to check. All right, now, think about the end of yesterday's lesson. There was a lot of talking going on, and there were some new words dancing all over the place like chickens on drugs. Okay, so let's have a quick butcher's at some of those new words, shall we? All right, cooking with gas. So, the first thing I'd like to look at is something that isn't really that new. We've seen this one before, but it's always a good idea to check that we're all on the same bus when we're talking about vocabulary. Now, the phrase I'm thinking of is the phrase to ring a bell. All this means, this informal phrase, is that something sounds familiar. Originally, this phrase was used when someone heard something familiar, but when they weren't really sure if they knew what it was. Someone might ask you, "Do you know Janet from the sales department?" And you think, and then you ask the person, "Janet? Janet who? What's her surname?" Then, when the person tells you that Janet's surname is Pokinghorn, you might say to them, "I'm not sure, but her name rings a bell. Janet Pokinghorn." So, all we're doing with this phrase, all we're communicating with this phrase is that when we hear the name, in this case, the name Janet Pokinghorn, then a bell goes bing in our heads. It makes us think that we possibly do know this person. Now, as I said, this used to be used when we were talking about hearing things that we thought we remembered. But now, well, now people use it in a more relaxed way. So you might hear people saying that his face rings a bell, which just means that they think they know him or that they think that they've seen him before. So we can use this when we're talking about things that we think we've heard before and when we're talking about things that we think we've seen before. So let's move on. we know that the phrase to ring a bell probably rings a bell with all of you for a start. Okay, now, moving on. What else was there in the last part of yesterday's lesson? Well, for one thing, I spoke about the news being a bombshell. Now, what's a shell? Well, think about chickens and eggs. Chickens come from eggs, but not only chickens. Ducks, geese, alligators, crocodiles, duck-billed platypuses, seagulls, lots of things. Lots of baby animals start their life in an egg. Snakes, too. And when they're ready to move into the big new world, then they leave the egg and move into a flat or a house or something like that. All right, now follow me like a hawk. To get out of the egg, the animal has to break through the shell. The egg has a shell, the hard outer coating of the egg, which defends the animal inside, is called a shell. So if you want to eat an egg, for example, you break the shell first. If you want to fry an egg, then you break the eggshell and pour the contents of the eggshell. The egg, the albumin, the egg white, the bit with the protein, and the egg yolk, the yellow bit, the bit with the, I don't know, the yolk has also got protein in it and fat too. So, if you want to fry an egg, you put some oil or lard into your frying pan, then you take an egg and you hit it against the side of something hard. This way you break or crack the shell, and this means that you can pour the egg into the hot oil and start cooking it. Okay, so that's an egg shell, but we do have other types of shell too. Think about when you go to a fancy restaurant, something like the Ponzi Peacock. Maybe as you scan the menu, you see that there are different sections. There are the starters, the food you eat before you start eating real food. Things like soup and salad and things. That's the first course. Then, of course, we get the second course, the main course, the meat and potatoes. This part of the menu is where we see words like poultry, beef, pork, game, and things like that. Poultry, as I'm sure you all remember, is the meat we get from domesticated, that is, tame, not wild, birds. Things like chicken and turkey, duck and goose. Beef, easy. Beef is dead cow, or it could also be dead bull. Sometimes you see veal on the menu. This is dead baby cow. The meat is a different color and the meat is very, very tender because the animal is still very young and it's still drinking milk. Nothing else. No Coke, no Fanta, no orange juice, no pineapple juice, just milk. Okay, and what about pork? Easy. Pork is the meat we get from dead pigs. Oh, okay, we also get bacon from dead pigs too. And game? Well, game is the word we use to talk about meat, which comes from dead wild animals. If I eat pork, then that means I'm eating part of a dead pig, a pig that lived on a farm, a pig who got all of his food and water from the farmer. If, on the other hand, I'm eating boar, for example, then this means that I'm eating game, a wild animal, in this case a boar, a wild pig which lived in the forest and was hunted by someone. So, if it says pork, then we all know that the meat came from a pig that lived at home with the farmer. And if it says game, we know that this animal didn't live with the farmer, this animal lived an independent life. Venison, the meat we get from deer, is game, for example. If you're eating Bambi, then you're eating game. You're eating venison. Okay, back to the shell. So, alongside all of the meats and things on the menu, you might also see a section of fish and seafood. Okay, we know what fish are. Funny, slippery, smelly things that live in the water. Okay, and what about seafood? Well, seafood is the noun we use to talk about fish and shellfish from the sea, which we eat. Now, think about what you know about shells and try to work out what a shellfish is. Have you got it? Yes! Think about when you go to the beach. You can see lots and lots of shells on the beach or in the water, in the sea. So these are fishy things. These are things that live in the sea, in the ocean, but they've got a shell to protect them. Things like crabs or lobsters or oysters or mussels or shrimp. All of these things, these fishy things that live in the sea and have got some sort of body armor, these are shellfish. Okay, so that means that they're fish in a shell. They've got bulletproof vests on. Well, sort of. So that's a shellfish, a sort of fishy thing which is protected by a shell. Okay, so a fish with body armor. All right, so we know what a shellfish is. Good. And we also understand that the shell of an eggshell, is the hard part of the egg. I think it's made of calcium, the part of the egg which protects what's inside. Just like with the armor knights used to wear, and just like the body armor soldiers and police officers wear today. All right, so that's a shellfish and an eggshell. But what word did I use? Yes, that's right. I used the word bombshell, didn't I? Now, we know what a bomb is, don't we? Yes, a bomb is a thing which goes bang! A bomb is an explosive device, something which is designed to explode. And what does the verb to explode mean? Well, it's the same as the verb to burst, really. If I take a balloon and blow it up and then keep blowing air into it, then at some point when I'm trying to put too much air into the balloon will burst. It will go bang, make a loud noise, and all of the pieces of the balloon will go everywhere very quickly. And that's the same as an explosion. The only difference is that if I blow up a balloon past the maximum limit, if I try to put too much air into the balloon, then when it pops, when it bursts, when it explodes, then nobody will die. If you cause an explosion by lighting a match when there's a gas leak, then that could be very dangerous.
Right, Neil, I'm going to give you 3 seconds to make supper, starting now.
3 seconds.
1, 2,
What do you fancy, Viv?
3. Where's my supper?
Well, it's not quite finished yet, actually. You know, it's not ready.
Oh, that's right, Neil, yes! Lounge around, have a good time, while we starve to death, beatnik!
And you've broken my favourite plate?
Oh, well, suppose we should just have to cook our own supper.
Okay, so as we can see, explosions, when things explode, can be very dangerous. And, well, here's the thing. When people design bombs, they design them to cause as much damage as possible when they explode. People who make bombs want the bombs to destroy as many things as possible when they explode. They're talking about an event, something which happened, something which was very unexpected, something surprising. Imagine if your wife came home and told you that she was leaving you to go and live in South Africa with, yes, you guessed it, Chief Mangosuthu Buthelezi. Now that would be a bombshell. So, although the original idea was connected to bombs and bomb making, nowadays when we talk about a bombshell, we're just talking about some very surprising news. If your grandfather phones you up to let you know that he's pregnant, then that would be a bombshell, a very big bombshell. And on that rather disturbing note, quick, phone your grandpa and check that he's not pregnant. No, I don't think he can be, so don't worry. You don't have to phone him. But on that note, it's time for us to leave you. Yes, it's true. So, we now know what the bombshell was for the Benchfields. It was the news that Lizzie was mixed up in the security mystery at the supermarket. But what happens next? Well, in order to find out, you'll have to tune in tomorrow. Yes, we're done for the day, but we'll be back tomorrow and we'll see how the mystery continues to unfold. And I've got a feeling in my bones that Dave's bombshell wasn't the last bombshell of the mystery. All right, folk, remember to tune in tomorrow to discover what happens next. after that cliffhanger ending. Remember to have fun and a coffee or a tea, it's up to you. Enjoy yourselves, eat well, sleep well, rest, and I'll see you all tomorrow. And if you get a chance, remember www.mediaclick.hu, the one with all the K's and things. See you all tomorrow. See you later. Bye.